What's up? It's me, Beal. I'm going to review the latest Magic the Gathering set, INNISTRAD Midnight Hunt, for both the draft and sealed formats. So, something you'll need to know going into this set is about the day and night cycle. The day and night cycle is something new to INNISTRAD Midnight Hunt. It's a universal effect, meaning that it affects both players simultaneously. All werewolves in the set, which is what we're reviewing, have a front and a back side. Each of them features a keyword on the front called Daybound and Nightbound on the back. When the game begins, it's actually neither night nor day, but when a card with Daybound enters the battlefield for the first time in the given game, it becomes day and the day and night cycle begins. It's much like Monarch if you've ever played with it. It can only change between night and day and has to be either night and day for the rest of the game. How does it change between night and day? Well, day turns into night if a player casts no spells on their own turn, and night transforms into day if a player casts 2 or more spells during their own turn. This is an example of a daybound creature. So if you play this, and it is the first time a daybound creature has been played in the game, it becomes day, and this is nightbound version. If it is night when you play a daybound card, it becomes the nightbound version instead. Also, something to note, all of my statements about cards in this video just be about the werewolf archetype set. I don't use any specific grading scale, just how good I imagine it'll feel to pick in draft or to have in your deck. Just like any other red and green Gruul archetype, this is high power archetype. It is hard to deal with, has tramplers, huge creatures. Generally, in my opinion, this archetype in particular goes for a more mid-game or early tempo approach, trying to get the day and night cycle as fast as possible. And day and night is actually a really good way to control your opponent's hand. If it's night, it basically forces them to play 2 cards, so it becomes day, and if it's day, they can't just play a land and pass because then it'll turn to night. So it really puts them in an uncomfortable position for sure. This is the night version of both of these cards. These are the main players, so basically the main spells that'll make this archetype work. Kessig Naturalist, probably the best uncommon for this archetype in general. It's tied with 2 other cards for the cheapest daybound creature in the set, meaning it is the cheapest, earliest way to start the day-night cycle. It is a red and a green. Whenever Kessig Naturalist attacks, add red or green. Till end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. You know, a 2-mana 2/2 with limited ramp is already nice, but then you get the Night form, which is a 2-mana 3/3 Lord for wolves and werewolves, meaning it gives each +1/+1. If it's night when this card is out, it is insane for you. Unnatural Moonrise costs a red and a green. It becomes night. Until the end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yeah, I mean, this card is just another insane uncommon. Being able to change day to night at a sorcery speed even is just insane. It's a 2-mana buff to basically your entire board. If that creature deals damage, it draws another card, so it replaces itself. It also basically forces the opponent to use 2 resources again because it's night to reverse the night effect from this card alone. Obviously, the trample and the power buff is notable and important, but the main effect is the forced change to night. Flashback is just gravy. This card would be insane without flashback, it is more insane with flashback. So another thing to keep in mind, you really have to have this be the only card you play on your turn, or else it'll turn day on the next turn when you pass it to the end step. When it becomes your opponent's upkeep, it'll become day, because if you play another card, it'll be the second card you play in your turn, and therefore night will turn to day. It's fine if you play another. It has some synergy with a card like Village Watch, which when it turns to night, gives all your other wolves and werewolves haste, but this is pretty fringe and I don't really recommend it. So looking at Village Watch and reviewing Village Watch, it is a 4 and a red for a haste 4/3 with Daybound, and when it becomes night, it'll become a 5/4 with haste and all your other wolves and werewolves haste. This one's fine. You don't really want it though, unless it's nighttime, so it's pretty situational, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Tireless Hauler, on the other hand, is actually pretty good even on the day form. When you play this card, if you play this card on curve, meaning it's your 5th land drop and you play this card, most other creatures that'll be on the board at that point are 4/3 power toughness, so this hits a really good spot. And if it's night when you play it, it's a 5 converted mana cost 6/6 vigilance, so it's just a really good card. Moving on to Outland Liberator. This is another one of those only 3 cards in the Archetype, which can bring the day cycle at a 2 mana cost. This card is actually just really insane. I've seen it really underrated, but there's one card in the format that this is extremely useful for, that will 100% be sideboarded against you, at least in pre-release events, which is Silver Bolt. It is a 1 mana artifact with 3 and tap, sacrifice Silver Bolt. It deals 3 damage to a target creature. If a werewolf is dealt damage this way, destroy it. Obviously, anybody playing against werewolves wants this in their sideboard. So after game 1, they're going to put this in their sideboard, and even in game 1, I would recommend running Outland Liberator, because just 1 mana, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment, it's just strong enough. There aren't many other artifacts that it could target, but it's still really strong. And then you get to the night side, and it becomes a 3/3 with its previous effect, and whenever it attacks, destroy a target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. It's just crazy. I highly recommend this card. Fangblade Brigand. Really hard card to pronounce, and you know, it's a pretty solid mana sink, even in day form. A first strike is always nice. Comes at 3 and a red. It has Daybound and a activated ability, 1 and a red. Fangblade Brigand gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until the end of turn. When it turns to night, it just becomes an even stronger body that can gain first strike, which again is very useful, as you'll come to see, especially with this archetype. And it has a 4 and a red. Creatures you control get +2/+0. It's a nice pump ability. I don't know how often this archetype's going to have a wide board, but I think it puts out enough threats that you can use this most games. Harvesttide Infiltrator. It's not good. I don't know. Like it really isn't that great. Play it on turn 3. It's not great. It's turns night. It becomes a 4/4. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this one. It has to be night for it to be useful, and 2 health in this format is really just a detriment to a card that is supposed to be aggressive. Burly Breaker. It is a pretty absurd card for 3 green. It is a 3 green, Ward 1, Human Werewolf, 6/5. That's already pretty good. Solid body that a little hard to deal with. But then it becomes night. Remember, this is a converted mana cost of 5. It becomes night in 8/7 ward 3. 8/7 ward, that is insane. Okay? Just let that sink in, please. That's crazy to me. Moving on to Bird Admirer. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, like, the benefit of this one, compared to Harvest-Tide Infiltrator, is that it has 4 toughness and not 2, so it can actually survive long enough to transform and defend against some flyers because of its reach. When it becomes night, it is a converted mana cost of 3. It is a reach 3/5. It's solid. You know, all of these cards are going to be great on their night end. What you have to focus on, I think, in my opinion, is it okay if it's during day? Can you even run it if it's daytime? And with this one, yeah, I think so. With Harvest-Tide Infiltrator, I find that to be hard to fit in. Tavern Ruffian. Much like the previous card, this is just, you know, it has enough toughness to live to be during its night form, where it becomes a 6/5. So this is like Wing Shredder, except you can swing with it more often, and that's really what it's meant for. Reckless Stormseeker. This is the first of our rares. It's just a really solid defensive card. It is 2 in a red. Daybound creature, 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature it's +1/+0 and haste until the end of turn. I feel like you'd run this. I mean, it wouldn't be a great rare, but I feel like you'd run this even if it was just the day side. And then you get to the night side, which has some crazy implications. Remember, this is converted mana costs of 3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature gains +2/+0 and gains trample and haste until the end of turn. So pair this with something, I don't know, your Burly Breaker during night. Well, it has to be during night. You play this on turn 3. Turn 4, you let it become night. Turn 5, you play Burly Breaker, which is an 8/7 ward 3. Then you give it +2/+0, trample, and haste, making a 10/7 ward 3 with haste and trample on turn 5. Yeah. Good luck. And moving on to the next card, which is Tovolar's Huntmaster. It is a 4 mana green. When Tovolar's Huntmaster enters the battlefield, create 2 2/2 green wolf tokens. It has Daybound, and it is a 6/6. I mean, this card is just a huge tempo swing, even past turn 6. In an archetype with almost universal, like, vertical board building, board development, it's really important for the card to exist. Cards like Fangblade Brigand's Night Form, the one that gives everything +2/+0, it really would love this card. And it's really solid even on its day form. But when it turns night, it becomes a 7/7, and it has a mana sink bite ability, fight ability, which means another target wolf or werewolf you control fights another creature you don't control. For 4 mana, repeatedly. That's pretty crazy. And every time it attacks, it creates those 2/2 wolf creature tokens. So this card's just really crazy, especially even in the rare slot. This feels like a mythic to me. What do I know? Moving on to Tovolar Dire Overlord. It costs 1, a red and a green. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Already, that's pretty great. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night, and then transform any number of human werewolves you control. Daybound. 3/3. 3 mana, 3/3. With all that text. That is insane. You know, he basically just makes all of your werewolves twice as efficient, subverts the day and night cycle, and is just a 3-mana 3/3 with Daybound, so it starts the day and night cycle. This card is so insane to me. It's super solid, and then it transforms. And it gains +1/+1 and a mana sink ability that demands an answer. Like, this is game-ending levels of mana sink, because it gives trample as well. I just think this card is absolutely crazy in terms of limited format power level. That's really all there is to say about it. Next is Arlen the Pack's Hope. 2 for a red and a green. It is Planeswalker, Daybound. +1 ability. Until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Its -3 ability is create 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. Those are just really solid for 4 mana. And I think the +1 ability is sneaky, very overpowered. Flash and instant spells have like a less than obvious synergy with this archetype, as you can play nothing on your turn if it's day, then you play cards on your opponent's turn because it'll turn into night. Not only that, but they enter with an extra stat buff on top of that. The -3 ability is good, but the best part to me is the +1, which is really what you want. Then it becomes night, and she gains a +2, add red and a green. Fantastic. Great. 0. Until end of turn, Arlen the Moon's Fury becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible, and haste. Yeah, this card's really good. Pick it up all the time. This is probably going to be worth a good amount of money too, if you want to pick for money. Look, this card's good. Sleeper OP. These are cards that I've seen other reviewers either glance over, not talk about too much, talk about the implications of, or vastly underrate for this archetype. Lunar Frenzy. Oh god. You're gonna hate this card. You will not like this card when it's used against you at all. Uncommon slot. It is a card that just makes you win. It is a X card in green, always great. Gives a creature +X/+0, first strike, and trample until the end of turn. And it's instant speed. Come on. Pestilent Wolf. Really, really good, but it may seem innocuous at first. There are a few cards that can give this card trample. There's a few cards that can give this first strike, and it can gain death touch at will. So you use Lunar Frenzy on a Pestilent Wolf. We all know how deadly trample or first strike with death touch can be. Why not both? Moving on to Bounding Wolf. A creature with flash in a format where you'll likely be wanting to control the day and night cycle is really good. Pick this up if you're building a deck that relies on those synergies. Raise the effigy, 1 red instant, choose 1, destroy target artifact, or target attack creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I know, it doesn't look good. It's not. It's really not a good card. But that Silver Bolt, you need this in your side deck. What sideboard? You need this in your sideboard, okay? This is necessary. Silver Bolt. This card will be the bane of your existence if you run this in sealed events especially. This is a common slot werewolf 8 card. You need artifact removal, you need Raise the Effigy, put it in after your first game because somebody's going to use this against you. Curse of Shaken Faith. I love this card. This card's insane. I love this card. Nobody I've listened to talk about this card likes this card. They're like, yeah, it's okay. And they'll rate it like whatever their equivalent of a middle grade is. This card is insane. 1 and a red. Enchant player. Whenever enchanted player casts a spell other than the first spell they cast each turn, or copies its spell, Curse of Shaken Faith deals 2 damage to them. Good lord. This punishes them for having a normal game plan. You know what it even further punishes them for? Trying to turn it into day when it's night. They need to play 2 cards. You need to take 2 damage, at least. This card's crazy. Come on. You're gonna hate this card too. I promise you. Moonrager Slash. Blood on the Snow too, but it can go face. How about that? Augur of Autumn, not sleeper OP, but this is too good to not be like, okay, this shit is crazy. Look at this card! It ensures a useful draw most of the time. It doesn't even make you reveal the card, you can just look at it. I have a theory that Coven's going to be a lot easier to trigger than anybody gives it credit for, but even if you don't have the Coven ability on this, it's still good. Come on, like this card's good. The best card in this archetype, in my opinion, Sereth the Viper's Fang. 2 green. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Other tapped creatures you control, or other untapped creatures you control, have Hexproof. 1 tap, tap this creature, untap another target creature or land you can. This card is ridiculous, man! You have Trample cards that you give all Death Touch. You have First Strike cards that you give all Death Touch. This is the ultimate card for this format. You swing in, they can't afford to block, but they can't afford not to. If they don't have an immediate answer to Sereth, you will just probably win the game upon playing it. It is that insane. I am very passionate about this card being completely bonkers busted. This is ridiculous. Good cards, lol. Yeah, I'm just going to show you some good supporting cards for this archetype and then briefly describe each, try to make it like a lightning round. Ardent Elementalist, great for bringing back those Grand Slam cards like Moonrager Slash and Lunar Frenzy, and you know, the one that makes it night on command. That one. That one has flashback, so it might be exiled anyway. Next is Howl of the Hunt, good as a combat trick, good to bait and switch after swinging a full board, just a good card. Lambholt Harrier, an okay mana sink. Not blocking things is generally good for you. Stolen Vitality, good on offense and defense. Giving your shit trample, always good. Cathartic Pyre, worse than Moonrager Slash in some ways, better in others, a little bit more flexible in some ways, a little bit less in others. Just a decent pickup, 2 mana, 3 damage, red removal, always a gold standard. Take this card. Clear Shot, great board control. Instant bite effect, +1/+1, maintains your tempo, great card. Dryad's Revival, I've not had great success with this card, this type of card with like rule archetypes, but you can take it if you feel like it. The flashback is an extra bonus. Obsessive Astronomer. People are definitely sleeping on how often day will switch to night and vice versa. You will be using this card's rummaging ability almost every other turn, I think, if not every turn. Also, the 2 mana card, the last 2 mana card that starts the day and night cycle for this archetype. Prior Bridge Tracker. 2 and a green, 3 mana, converted mana cost, 4/3 vigilance, that can draw a card. Nice. Burn Down the House. Potentially the best card Red has to offer in terms of like rares or mythics. I haven't compared them, but this card's crazy. Both options are great. You like the devils. You have a lot of 6 health creatures during night, so Burn Down the House. Also great, like in the sweeper. It's just so good. Light Up the Night. Great card overall. It ends games. Can get you out of trouble pretty often. Solid card. Primal Adversary. playing this for 3 is fine. I'm not sure if playing it for 5 is worth it. 7, yeah, I think 7 could be like its sweet spot. I think you'll always pick up this card just for the monetary value alone. If you're playing paper Magic, yeah, just a good card. And yeah, I made this all streaming live on twitch.tv/Beal, so if you could give me a follow there or just any feedback, I would appreciate it. Thank you.